started as sub-collector. I worked mainly in Kannur district. Okay, cyclone happened when I was in Alappuzha, and Kerala floods happened when I was in Thrissur. So these were all like huge learning experience. It was 2004 and the internet also had just started in our place. So coming from a inaugural batch, it has both good and bad. Like, so you don't have seniors to guide you and all that. I saw on TV that the results are getting announced, and then he looked up and then he said it's fourth rank. I was like, no, that's not me. You get a job in campus placement and you don't take it, and then you study, prepare for civil services. So people would be like, will you get into civil services? So you transition was not difficult for me because I always wanted to be a civil servant. There are people who talk about like Stanford, MIT and all that. So for me, I was like, oh, I can also try. So maybe I'll get through. So that confidence also came.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Bitsa Pulse, where we talk about illustrious Bitsians, their journey, where they share a pulse into their life. Firstly, huge thanks and to our series making it huge success by showering all your love. Today, I'm Hanusha from 2014 BITS Hyderabad branch.
And I'm Nivya from Pilani campus, 14 to 18 batch.
And we'll be talking about interesting speaker, and Nivya would give us an introduction.
All right, so it is with great honor and anticipation that we introduce and welcome TV Anupama, an IAS officer hailing from Kerala. So, with an illustrious career spanning 13 years in the service for the government of Kerala, Officer Anupama has held pivotal roles, including Director of the Women and Child Development Department for nearly 3 years, and Commissioner of the Land Revenue Department for a brief period of time. She is a distinguished alumna of BITS Goa campus, graduating with a BE Honours in 2008 from its inaugural batch. She has also received previous prestigious accolades, include the Chevening Awards from the University of Oxford in 2022. Presently, she is pursuing her Masters in Public Administration from Harvard Kennedy School. We extend our warmest welcome to you, ma'am, and express our gratitude for graciously accepting our invitation.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, welcome. Okay, so we'll start into the podcast. We would make it into brief sections, starting with childhood, then your schooling, especially touching about BITS, and then looking more into the career work, and then like current any advices to young professionals. So, talking a little bit about your childhood, what would you say was your core memory, or can you? How would you describe your childhood if it could have any lasting impact to your upbringing or the way you have brought up right now?
Okay, so I was born in a village and it was like a close-knit family and like surrounded by cousins. I was like, we grew up with cousins and like our parents tried to give us best education. I have a sister also. So like, had a lot of good things, good memories about my childhood. But like when you lose a parent when you're a child, then that becomes your like, you get, you carry that memory right throughout. So so I lost my dad when I was 16, and like but even after that, my mom, my grandparents, they supported me so much, and the way I was brought up, that definitely influenced my life, my career, everything. So one thing that I'm very lucky about is like the importance that they gave to academics throughout my life, like even for my sister. So that's something like I always wanted to study, and I was interested in learning new things and all that. And another thing I saw was how independent my mom was, how independent, how strong a woman my mom was, even battling her health issues and all that. She really she pulled herself bring her to for my and my sister's upbringing. So I learned the independence and focus on career and all that from my mom. So there are so many good things that I learned.
Okay. Sorry to hear about your dad, but yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah.
Yeah, so as I mentioned in my introduction, you come from the inaugural batch of Goa campus. So, so how did you come to know of the existence of the Goa campus? Like, was it all part of a plan, or did things fall into place this way?
So then it was 2004 and the internet also had just started in our place and all that in our locality. So uh, we didn't have many sources to hear about BITS, but I did hear about BITS Pilani from another person. Like a student was my mom's colleague's daughter. So I knew about BITS Pilani, but one day big news appeared in a newspaper, a Malayalam newspaper, saying BITS has opened a new branch in Goa and like how to apply and all that. So I knew BITS Pilani is amazing, but like for me, Pilani is really, really far. And like my family was also very, and I was the first person from my family to go outside to study and all that. So Pilani, was not very sure about Pilani, but then I read this news and it was like God given. So I still remember it was like pre-internet times when you wrote the application. I remember doing it and posting it and all that, and it just happened.
So did you have BITSAT exam as well, or was
No,
it
it started next year.
next year? Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Yes.
So I gave my first option BITS Goa.
Oh, nice.
Nice, good to know that. So how was your life there in terms of interaction with faculties, picking up courses, your friends, extracurriculars, etc. Like anything that you want to talk about or you cherish.
So coming from an inaugural batch, it has both good and bad. Like so, you don't have seniors to guide you and all that, and many things are not systematized yet. So there are certain problems, but at the same time, like we had a lot of opportunities. Like many things on the campus, we started, we initiated. So we were actually involved in everything, and like the way the campus was evolving, and we were growing with the campus. So that was an amazing feeling. So I think we were very close. Our batch is also very close because we don't have seniors. Like we are the only ones on campus, so you can imagine, right? So we knew everyone. So it was not like your batch, the triple E interacts with triple E. It was not like that. So I believe everybody in our batch had an amazing time, and like we had a lot of friends, and like we could actually like whatever abilities, skills, and extracurricular activities we were confident about. We could try out everything. Like nobody was there to judge us. So it was amazing, and I still have my good friends very close to my heart. I keep meeting them wherever we travel. So.
Yeah, I totally get it. Like those 4 years at BITS, those are very, very precious to me.
Yeah.
So I totally get it. Yeah.
So did you? So were you always inclined towards civil service? How was that navigation post BITS, or like? Were you already looking for a job, like through placements, or did you already have this in mind? Like, can you talk a little more about that journey?
Yeah, so the transition was not difficult for me because I always wanted to be a civil servant. So even when I was in BITS, I was like reading about civil services. I had my last year I had started like going through the syllabus and started reading up a little bit of information and all that. So that way it was like a smooth transition. I decided that immediately upon completion of my PS2, I'll go to Delhi and do coaching for a brief period. So it was planned. So it was easy for me. But then going to BITS helped me to like improve upon many things, and like I was not very confident about getting into civil services earlier. Like they say so many people write the exam, but very few get in. But then you land up in a place where you have very supportive friends, and then there are people who talk about like Stanford, MIT, and all that. So for me, it's like, oh, I can also try. So maybe I'll get through. So that confidence also came. So it was not that difficult to plan for the transition to happen.
Nice. So were you already taking any sort of courses in such a way that it would help you with, like, because you said it was always part of the plan for you. Did something through your BITS journey help you with the preparation, or like give you an edge?
So on the academic side, I would say no, because I was doing triple E,
Okay.
and I wanted to like do a professional course. So as I said before coming to BITS, I was not very confident. So I wanted to do a professional course to gain that skill, so that I'm comfortable in preparing for the civil services and all that. So I focused on my engineering that way. But at the same time, living on the campus, so you're away from your family, so the kind of independence that came with it, and like there were a few other people also who were interested in civil services, and then I was actively interested and involved in the social service activities on campus and all that. So because of which, I think I was more drawn towards civil services.
Nice.
Okay, so most of the time, what happens is people take inspiration from the people around them, especially their family members. So, was it the same for you? I mean, are you the first IAS officer from your family, or there have been people and you like who inspired you?
Yeah, so I was the first IAS officer from my family. As told you, I'm from a village where not many talk about civil services and all that. But my dad and my uncle both had attempted a civil services preliminary examination, but at the same time, during that time, they had to settle earlier for a job and all. They had to take care of the family, so they both wanted to they both liked civil services, but they could not give it a good try, or they could not chase that dream. So they both told me about civil services and all that. So I think that ignited that interest in me. Yeah.
Nice. Actually, can you mention which part of Kerala are you from? I don't think we've got that before.
Yeah, I'm from Malappuram district.
Okay, so would you say like fairly your access to things there was like easier, or how was it for you to, like, what sort of obstacles were you facing while you're preparing for your exam, or how was that journey of your experience of preparation for the civil services?
Okay, so I chose my optional subjects and all based on the availability of study material and availability of people to guide you and all that. So this was 2008. I started my preparation in 2008. So initially a few months, like first 4 months I spent in Delhi. I attended classes in Delhi. Then I came back and then I stayed home doing the studies and all that. So yeah, we had libraries nearby, but then there was difficulty in accessing certain books and all. But internet was useful then, and then I had already got purchased some of the books from Delhi, so it was not that difficult. I would say the access wise, it was not that difficult. But then, after some time, I had to move to Trivandrum because I wanted access to a very good academic library, which was not there in my place. That's so, yeah. Staying in Trivandrum helped me more. And then after writing the exam again, I would come back home and then I'll do my preparation on my own. So it was between Delhi, Trivandrum, and my home. Obstacle, I would say it was a kind of pressurizing period, not because somebody was people were judging you. It's not like that. But then you get a job in campus placement and you don't take it, and then you study, prepare for civil services. So it was a bit unusual during those times. So people would be like, "Will you get into civil services?" So you you get worried about all these things. No, so that was a problem. But my mom, she protected me like anything. So you can imagine a single parent like giving you so much of confidence. She was like, you just take care of your studies, don't worry about anything else. So that was an amazing thing. And my uncle also was like that. So, and my grandparents were my grandfather died when I was preparing, but my grandma was around and my sister. So, and my friends from my college. So it made me they all made me comfortable.
Yeah, for sure. I know even right now when people are preparing, firstly, there's access to everything. Everything is at your fingertips, like internet, data, everything. And also, people usually try to have a backup option, like they're already through placements or PS, you would get a job and you would start working in there, and then look into like studying part time and stuff like that. So, for, like letting go of your the option, which was a safer cushion, I would say, and then like just focusing on that could be a tough time. So yeah, congrats. So how did you feel when you got, like, firstly, how many attempts did you like take for you, or like how did you feel like when in the end result?
So I couldn't delay my preparation so much. I was like, I want to get into in the first attempt. It is not like it happens. You can plan so much to get into first attempt and all that. There's a luck factor,
Yeah.
everything, and the syllabus is vast. So even if you prepare so much, the questions will be slightly different and all this.
Yeah.
But even then, I thought I would give my best. I will try to get in the first attempt because I can't, like I had to take care of my mom also at some point, so I could not delay my like livelihood also beyond the point. So yeah, I I tried my best and I got in the first attempt.
Nice. Congrats, actually.
Yeah, congratulations. That's a
Sometimes
big
happy.
deal.
Yeah, but so yeah, how was the reaction, or like how did you feel?
So like I did the preliminary and the interview part well, but the main exam is the one that has maximum weightage. So the exam, it was tough. Many questions which I could not attempt properly, and the time was a problem. And then I had a chikungunya at the time of the exam, so I had a problem with like body pain. So there was some problem with the speed of writing and all that. So I was not overall. I was feeling a bit low, and I was not very confident about it. But like once I got the interview call, I became a little more confident. So maybe I should try my best for the interview. And then when I heard about the result, it was like my husband did, yeah, my best friend, my boyfriend back then. So he was the one who looked up the result because I read in, like I saw on TV that the results are getting announced, and then he looked up and then he said it's fourth rank. I was like, no, that's not me. You can't believe it.
Yeah.
Right? So I did not expect it.
Yeah.
So I couldn't
Wow,
believe
that's
it. And
huge.
my mom asked like, "Are you sure?" And then she was working. She was in her office, and then
Are
she's
you
like,
sure
she-
that's you?
Yeah, because she has to come home, right?
Yeah.
So she was asking me again and again.
Oh, wow, that's a huge thing. So yeah, how was your interview experience? Like, if you could like talk through your interview experience.
So I would always say that it's one of the best interviews you would attend in your life. Like they make you comfortable, and it's not like a question answer grilling session or anything, but like they'll take you through the questions with your flow. So they asked me about like many things like Malayalam literature, economics, and like even elections in India. So there were, and then my background and about Kerala, there were, and even Goa. So they asked me so many questions, but like the flow was good, and they were not judging me. Like there were a couple of instances where I could not answer, so I told them like something was about the banking reforms. I think I couldn't answer that properly, so I told them I'm sorry, I don't know that. But even then, like they make you comfortable. So I think because of which there were no too many panic moments during the interview. So I think it went okay.
Nice, that's great.
Nice. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna switch gears and talk about the times after you cleared your UPSC and were posted in Kerala. So since you were posted in your home cadre, did you get bombarded with a lot of personal favors or requests from relatives, friends, or family members? If yes, how do you deal with them, or how did you deal with them?
Yeah, and of course people would call you, like, but most of the calls were for like following up something or some for guidance on something legal and all that. So those are the things I can always clarify to them or like guide them to, mostly for application or follow up and all that. So but like there were a few instances where they were asking for other things also, but like, not too many. And like but they were all kind enough to understand when I explained to them I cannot do it. So I used to express like that, and then people mostly understood it. So I never had very serious occasion when I had to navigate it with a little difficulty. I don't remember going through that.
That's great. You were surrounded with understanding people. So after you were posted in Kerala, what sort of work did you do? I mean, if you could just talk briefly about it.
Okay. So, started as sub collector. I worked mainly in Kannur district. So, it felt like field postings are some of the best like days of your career. Like when you work as sub collector. Later, I worked as collector in Alapura and Thrissur because you interact with a lot of people. You actually do work hands on and all that. So, I had very good experience working in these three districts and like in. OK cyclone happened when I was in Alapura, and Kerala floods happened when I was in Thrissur. So these were all like huge learning experience because when a disaster comes, it's not like you don't just manage disaster. Like there are a lot of things surrounding that, so you learn a lot of things, and then the crisis management is something that you learn. So. I had had a lot of learning, and definitely there are moments of like the moments that give you pressure about like whether am I doing it right or wrong and all that. All that comes with our job. But then in the end, like I'm happy about the way the career went so far. But like it's only 1/3 of my career so far. There are more years to go, so I don't know what's in store. And apart from the field posting, I worked in Women and Child Department, Tourism Department, Food Safety Department, Tribal Affairs Department, and my last posting was in Revenue Department as Commissioner Land Revenue. All these were in Trivandrum, so got a lot of experience. But most of my experience is in the social sector, gender, child protection, tribal affairs, and all that. And I love working in those sectors.
Okay, so just asking out of curiosity. So if you were to pick one of the jobs, like all the experiences that you've gone through till now, if you have to pick one for the rest of your career, what would that be?
So I would say my work in women and child is something that I've always enjoyed doing, and in particular in women and child protection is something I can always connect to. That's a sector I love working in. I love like learning new things about it. And even now in Harvard, I'm pursuing child protection certificate, so that's an area of continuous learning for me.
Yeah, it's good to see your enthusiasm for doing something in that field.
Thank you.
Nice.
Okay, so coming more into what we are doing right now. So, what brings you to Boston, and what was this shift in the next phase of your learning journey that you've taken? Walk us a little bit.
Like I was an engineer and then I became a civil servant. So, you learn a lot from the experiences and all that, but then you don't feel confident because sometimes you feel that you don't have that academic backing and all that. Like, luckily, our academy at Missouri, they prepare us well through the induction training phase, I mean, like the professional training, mid-career training and all that. But even then, I wanted to have some more academic learning about public administration and all that. So that's why I chose it, and I chose it now because like soon we'll be moving towards policy making roles from policy implementation roles. So I thought that would be a right time to learn better, and like maybe I need those skills also in my days ahead. So that's why I chose this.
Yeah, so a little bit into that. So, how, like you mentioned, soon you'll be moving into. So, can you give us a little more insights on what sort of like policy changes that you are excited about, or like how do you think this transition will help you in the next phase?
Okay. Right now I'm doing mid-career Master of Public Administration at Harvard Kennedy School. So this program, since it's mainly for the mid-career professionals, it's a graduate program for mid-career professionals. So it has a lot of flexibility to choose the areas which you would like around it. For example, I've taken course on children. At the same time, I have learned a little bit of finance also and a bit of urban policy. So there are some gaps in my learning. So I tried to choose areas where I find a gap and also the areas which excite me. So I hope one thing I noticed is that this is a good opportunity to learn about global policies and all that. And another thing is there are certain skills about the policy making and policy analysis, policy writing, and all that comes with a MPA program. So definitely that's gonna help me in my policy making roles ahead. Is what I think, both with the concepts and also the way of doing it. For example, yeah, everybody, like most of us, have a tendency to look at the solution first without understanding the problem. So when you do a problem driven iterative adaptation, so you think more about getting the solutions out of the problem. So I think then the solution becomes more comprehensive. So these are the kind of insights I get from the program, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah. And how is the cohort? Would you say, how do you describe your cohort right now is, and how did you find this is the right school, or how navigating into that process of choosing the program?
Yeah, actually, it was a tough choice. So I was like, I like social policy. So should I choose a school that focuses more only on social policy? So I had my own set of confusion and all that. So, but then one good thing that happened was Fulbright. I'm a Fulbright scholar, so Fulbright gives you some guidance in understanding about the program and all this. So that helped me, and then I spoke to the alumni and all that. So then one thing is the flexibility of the program, and then I wanted a 1 year graduate program, not a 2 years. So everything fell into place with Harvard. So that's why I chose it. But I don't think there's any right or wrong. So there are civil servants which choose other universities, other programs in Harvard also. So I felt this was good for me.
So you mentioned about Fulbright. Can you tell a little bit about what that exactly is?
Okay, so Fulbright Foundation, they offer scholarship for different masters for the PhD candidates now. So it's a joint initiative between the US government and the partner countries. So I think for masters last year from India, they chose 17 or 18 students. So it happens annually. Right now, I think the application process window is open.
Okay, nice. So, how does this is it a break right now for your career, or how does it, as a civil servant, how does this break, and, a little more insights into how does it work actually? Like, can you take a sabbatical sort of thing, or and go back, or like,
Yeah, so government allows us to take study leave
Okay.
once or twice in a career. Yeah, you have a study leave for 2 years, and so I applied to government for permission to take that sabbatical for my studies, and I got permission. That's how it came. So there are a few civil servants along with me. There are another 4-5 civil servants from India. So yeah, government encourages that.
nice. Okay.
Okay, so talking about, so we have talked about when you prepared for the exam, it must have been a very stressful period. And then you were serving the government of Kerala for 13 years, and now you're here. So I assume you must have had those busy days and stressful times. So my question is, how do you find the right balance between your professional and personal life?
Okay. It's not easy, and I don't think I balanced it well or anything. But then the thing is, if you have an understanding family, it becomes easy. It's not that you do it something good or something, but my husband, my child, they made it easier for me, I would say. So it was difficult for my husband this year because initially my son and we came here, so and we had to be away from him and all that. So and back in Kerala also, I was in Trivandrum, so he had to work in another city. So it was not always easy for us, and even my mom had to be in our family home, so she would get to see me only once in 2 months or something. So but then yeah, they were very understanding, and whenever I got some holidays and all that, I would also travel. So over the weekends we try to meet up and all that. But then yeah, but then there's always a gap wherein you know that family has to be prioritized, but then you don't get adequate time and all that. So I always had that problem here.
Okay, so were there times when you felt that you had to compromise on some of your, favorite leisure activity, or maybe some favorite hobby that you have had?
Yeah, like I don't even remember like, doing something like that recently. I used to read a lot, but then like I loved reading. My parents used to read a lot, so they gave me that habit, and was very grateful for that. But then I'm now not reading much and all that. So yeah, yeah, I feel bad about it. But right now, I think my son is in a growing stage. He's 7 years old, so I feel now if I get a break, my inclination is to spend time with him. So I don't think much about things which I can't do and all. But yeah, there are people who do everything. I have a lot of respect for them, but I know I have missed out on certain things, but I don't feel really bad about it. But when we get time, we travel. But then, like most of the holidays, you have to travel to meet your family and all that. So even we couldn't travel so much as we wanted to. So there's always been gaps.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah. So are you planning to go back to India this year?
Yeah, I'll be joining back on June 1st.
That's great.
Okay, so getting into a little bit of a current affairs segment. So what do you think by your learning with respect to your learning experiences here? What's the difference between the policy making in the East versus West? Like, are there like any stark differences that you noticed?
So, more than the East versus the West, like initially before coming here, I also thought like it is different between East and West. But after coming here, like I met civil servants from different countries, and we have many politicians also in our class. So, I understood that it's different in many countries, especially the organizational setup and the way and the procedure of policy making. It's different in different countries. Many countries give so much of emphasis on evidence, which is a good thing. But many countries they learn from their own experience. They don't look for outside evidence and all that. So I think there are many ways in which it's happening. But after coming here, I realized like for that particular context, for your country. What works the best? So that's the way the policy should be done, is what I feel. But at the same time, there are many tools and like thoughts which should go into it to avoid mistakes. So that's what I'm looking at it that way right now.
So what do you think of like the state policies of India in general? Like, if there are any like strengths of Indian policies or the tools that that the Indian policies are presenting you that you have available that can help you refine or make good policies.
So after coming here, I really appreciated the way justice is an embedded theme in most of our policies, because we have a lot of diversity in our country, like people from different like income groups and different classes and all that. So because of which, whenever a policy is made, like it tries inclusiveness is attempted everywhere. And so that makes justice, as I said, an embedded theme in most of our statutes and policies and all that. So, which is something I really appreciated after coming here. When we think about a new policy or a new project, we'll be thinking about the kind of population that will be benefiting, kind of population that can contribute, and the kind of population who may be affected by it and all that. So, I think that comes out of the diversity of our country, and like our country is huge, and like we have to think about a lot of things while making a policy, but in the end, that makes it unique.
That's right. Yeah. That's really good that you got an holistic exposure to everything that's around and also make like understanding and have appreciating the finer things within the Indian things which you might not have realized
That's true.
before. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I would like to talk about the most important section from a UPSC aspirant's perspective. I hope our viewers will benefit from your advice. So, so we all know navigating those stressful UPSC preparation times are very challenging and overwhelming for people. So, what is your guidance for the for the candidates that are preparing right now and also the upcoming UPSC aspirants?
Okay. A few years earlier, I would advise only on the UPSC point of view, seeing that it's not an easy exam. I wouldn't say it is intellectually challenging or anything, but you have to learn a lot. You have to learn to analyze a lot of things. You have to connect the dots and all that. So to get into that conditioning, you need some time, right? So we should not get dejected by the delay or it may take more than one attempt and all that. So that would be that's the first guidance I always give to people who are really passionate about the civil services. But now after like spending a few years in civil services, I have started to appreciate another aspect of it. Like governance is not just about the people in civil services, right? So a country becomes a country because of the contribution of all kinds of people. So there are people, researchers who are contributing, even the public private sector contributes, and that there are public sector undertakings, and there are academic institutions and all that. So I believe like governance, and in the days to come, governance is gonna be more. It's gonna be a more popular thing, more inclusive, more democratic thing, and all that. So I believe that even if you want to contribute to nation building, there are other ways of doing it. So don't just worry about like getting into civil services. Even if you want to participate in the larger scheme of national building, you can still do it even outside the government or outside the civil services also. And within civil services also, like apart from Indian administrative service also, there are a lot of areas where you can make difference. So I would suggest everybody to explore those options also, and not just be carried away by the only option of civil services. So, something like that.
I think that's a great point that you bring about, because a lot of times, firstly, you look at IAS or any of these main civil services, it's like it's too big of a dream to reach, and then you completely shift away and then not even think about it. But there are so many things in between too that you could like get into and like make a difference from anywhere that's possible, right? Right.
Also, I've heard people say that your luck plays a big part in cracking this UPSC civil service exam. So, do you believe in that?
Yeah, so as I said, like you have to learn a lot of things, right? And nobody will be able to do so much. So, and like it was my first attempt, so I knew that I could not do many things. I could not learn many things and all this. So that also depends on how the question paper is going to turn out, going to be and all that. So I think luck plays a factor, but then smart learning is a way of reducing the chance of luck. So you can plan it better. So going through previous question papers and like understanding some pattern and like focusing on important things and all that way, you can actually minimize the role of luck.
Luck factor.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. Okay, so how did you deal with the pressure of your preparation for the civil service exam? If you think retrospectively, would you have done anything different?
Okay, about the preparation for civil service examination, as I said, like I had my family support was a very big factor, and like all my friends, they got into job immediately after, but even then they were always in touch with me and my husband. Like they were all with me to encourage me throughout the process. So that made it easier. Like nobody was like she's the only one who's not working. So I never heard that from my dearest people. So that was a big thing. So, and about the preparation, I don't think I would have done it differently, because so those days I was lucky to get the guidance of like in Trivandrum I got for geography paper I got guidance from an amazing professor, and like for Malayalam I got guidance from another amazing professor. So because of which I was happy about the way it went. But yeah, then within 1 year, you would feel that yeah, there are a lot of things to learn and you haven't learned it all. But then I think it becomes like that only. You can't learn everything in a
Definitely.
civil service examination. So it was okay with it.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier that you went to Delhi for your preparation. So how long were you?
I was in
there?
Delhi for 4 months.
Oh,
So I didn't want to stay in Delhi for a longer period, like then cost of living, and after coaching, then you have to do self study, right? So then it has to be in a place where like with less expenses, and then it should be your comfort zone also. So because of which I came back to Kerala after that.
So you stayed at your home after that and then prepared.
Yeah, home and then Trivandrum, because like for books and for like the for and I said like there was a professor in Trivandrum I took support from. So for visiting him and like writing a mock test and all that, I didn't have such facilities in my district, so I had to travel to Trivandrum and stay there for some time.
So if you have to give an advice to young professionals or people who are right now preparing for their services, do you think they like picking up the professor, or like firstly like you said, subject of your choice that you're comfortable with, but then the having any of those external navigators or mentors, or how would you like, would that help, or how would you like, what advice would you give?
So now you have access to a lot of material, like a lot of teachers and online classes and all that. So it's not that difficult these days. But at the same time, that's another distraction, right? You might get into so much. But I feel that in civil services, they want to also see your original thinking and all. So one suggestion would be to not like go too much into the ready-made material. At the same time, like sit back and think about the things you read and learn and all that. But more than that, what I would say is like uh, getting into civil services is we talk about getting into civil services, but the real test is after that. So yeah, I think the biggest pressure after that is not like the political pressure and say with the performance pressure. You have to take a lot of decisions and all that, and then you have to work in a lot of department. You have to learn also, like you go from one department to other thing. So I would say that this preparation is needed to prepare you for that also. So I would suggest everybody to like think of it in that perspective. So if you feel that you can't handle this much of learning or this much of pressure, then it's gonna be really difficult later also. So I would suggest people to get prepared during the phase to face what's ahead in the civil service examination. I mean civil services career, and you can see it as like another career also. But then I would say that as a career, it demands a lot from you, and like if you are really passionate, you can do a lot of things, or you can just join the civil services and like be like work like a normal person. That's also possible in civil services because it's like there is time bound promotion and these kind of things, because of which you don't have a uh, the system doesn't particularly demand you to excel once you get into civil services, but at the same time society demands you to excel, right? So I would suggest people to take that learning period as to understand the problems in the society and what is expected out of you. And once you are sure about those things, facing those things, I think even the preparation period will become very enjoyable. So,
Wow.
That's
Beautiful words. So, while you were in Delhi and even afterwards, how did your preparation schedule look like?
okay, so I would say, as I said earlier, like I got a lot of support from my family, so I thought like I should give back. So that's the way I thought then. So I might think differently now, but like because of which I was studying all the time. So 15, 16 hours a day, like compromising on the sleep, and it was difficult. I didn't watch any movie or anything for those for the one for entire 1 year. I didn't know if it was needed, and it I could have I don't know if I could have managed it differently also. But I never had the habit of like studying too much before that. Like I had good scores and all in my school, college and all, but it was not like I didn't have a very good schedule with respect to preparing for exams and all this. So this was like first time I was planning and all. That's why I think I did over planned also. And I was studying all the time. So I think after the exam, I took 1 day break and then I started preparing for the next exam. So that's how it went.
Wow.
But I would
Wow,
say
that's
that
smart.
I should have relaxed a bit also. So uh, uh, like other than the friends I had from my college and all, I met a lot of people during the preparation, right? But then I did not like grow those friendships, and I did not have time to interact with those amazing people I met during the civil service preparation. Also, those were mistakes from my side also.
So do you regret that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the next segment is the rapid fire. It's like a fun segment just to end it on a lighter note. So yeah, Nivya and I will go over like question one by one, and then yeah, anything like the first thing that comes out of your mind, like for the questions.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so your first question is, what is your BITS ID?
2004 P3PS007. So that time the format was different.
2004.
P3PS007.
Yes. Oh,
So
It was
so in Goa it used to be P3PS
Oh.
for Triple E.
for Triple E.
Yeah,
Okay.
now it has changed. It's something like E3.
Yeah, so right now,
P007G.
yeah,
Yeah.
A3, yeah, that's how it is for. Alright. So I know you said you don't watch a lot of movies, but as civil servants, these are two shows or like things that come up to them, like people's mind, like Aspirants or 12th Fail. Have you watched, or like what are your thoughts? Or
No,
if
I
you-
haven't watched.
Okay.
So it came out when I was in Harvard, right?
Yeah, 12th Fail I think just came out recently.
Yeah, but
It-
that's something I'm gonna watch after my exams. Right now, final exams are going on, and definitely
Yeah,
gonna watch.
definitely let us know like how like those were our only insights on how usually people deal through things and like how they face. So one would like to know like perspective of somebody who's gone through similar things.
It's not that I did not watch anything at all during my Harvard days, but like I had a lot to study, and then I had my son to take care of. So I was like doing mostly binge watching and all that. So I wanted to relax when I was in front of the screen. So
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah,
When I finished my exams, something like that.
yeah. So it's on your watch list then.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice. Okay. So what was your family's reaction when you cleared your UPSC exam?
Of course, they were like elated, and initially they didn't believe, but then they were really excited. Like, I think they were happier than me. Yeah.
Aw.
So,
Any like shocking or unexpected reactions from anybody?
mm, because they were seeing me
Oh, yeah.
preparing and all that. No, so maybe that's why. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. What's your most memorable moment during your LBS and NA training phase after you got it?
I got one in the end of our training. I got an outstanding trainee award. So
Oh, nice.
that was and it was unexpected. They don't share beforehand, so it was announced on stage. So that was a good treat.
So what's your favorite hobby?
It was reading, and I know it is still reading, but I don't read much now.
So what kind of stuff do you read?
So I love Malayalam literature.
Who's your idol or inspiration? Pick one.
Basically, like my mom has always been my inspiration because of the way she managed her career, my life, everything. So yeah. So work-wise, there are many people, but like life, my mom.
So what is the best part of your job?
So there are some problems that that you can solve when you're there, right? So you don't get to do it when you do some other work, and it is not repeated also, because it's at that particular point of time you solve that particular problem, and then that becomes a non-existent thing, right? So it doesn't. There are things which come up also, so that gives that challenge and opportunity like many other jobs cannot give. So I love that challenge part.
Like every day is different.
Yeah.
And what is the hardest part of your job?
Like you get into the job saying like I'm going to do this, that, and all that. Like, but then it's not like you handle human beings, you handle money, resources, like organizations, institutes, and all that. So not everything goes as planned, right? So that gives me a lot of pressure. So that they'll think I have a feeling that I'm underperforming and all that. So that's the hardest thing to navigate.
That sort of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Isn't the right thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Everybody
true.
goes through it. It's
Yeah.
part of it, for sure. Yeah. So if you could pick 3 people, dead or alive, to have dinner conversation with, who would they be and why? And feel free to take our names if you have liked this conversation so far.
Oh, dead or alive?
Like any 3 people
So
from
is it like-
history, like
Oh, okay. Historical.
not just any 3 people
Any 3 people.
from any different ages, any different types.
So-
Like
Any day I would love to have dinner with my husband and son. So, and,
Okay.
yeah, and other than that, like my grandfather's brother, elder brother, was a freedom fighter. So, like that was he was a very inspiring person in our entire society and my community and all that. So that the road where the street where we grew up, that street is named after him. So, but he died long back, and he went to prison and all that in the freedom struggle. And all. So that's one person. His name is Krishna Panikkar. So that he was one person. We have never met him, but like all the children of family and all, we were really inspired by his stories. He's obviously one person.
Okay,
And
how about a BITS professor? Anybody from BITS?
Mm.
Professor.
Okay, a lot of favorite professors and bits. Like, yeah, I can't pick one. It's very difficult to pick
Okay.
one. But Kole, Aditi P. Kole sir, and then DM Kulkarni sir, and then Mitra ma'am, then Shushmita ma'am. Like, there are a lot of people. So,
okay, so look, okay.
I gave enough names.
Yeah,
Yeah,
more than
I
3.
think, yeah, more than 3. Okay, I think that's it for the rapid fire. Thank you so much for taking your time and doing the interview. It was really inspiring and got to know a lot of exciting things. So I hope you enjoyed as much as we did, and I hope audience got to enjoy and like learn or take something back for them too. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Anything like that comes with the bits tag is always dear to all of us, right? So
Yeah.
here also, when I start talking about bits and all, then people are like, you and your bits. So even in Harvard, I use the word bits a lot. So I'm so happy that you came and we could speak.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it was an honor for us that we were part of the same city, and it happened that we could do it in person. Yeah, so glad it all worked out.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking out
Thank you.
time.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we appreciate it.
Yeah.